Most people won't understand this until it's too late. Read that again. Let it hit you. Because that one sentence holds more pain, more truth, and more warning than most people are willing to hear. Every day, people are moving through life asleep, eyes open but dreams closed. They say, "I've got time." They say, "I'll get serious next year." They say, "It's not the right moment." But what they don't realize is that the clock doesn't care. Life doesn't give you a reminder when your time is up. It doesn't send an alert when your last chance passes by. It doesn't make a sound when your future slowly slips away while you're distracted by comfort, comparison, and convenience. Most people? They won't understand the value of their time until it's all gone. They won't understand the cost of laziness until they've paid it in full. They won't understand the power of discipline until they've lost years without it. And the worst part, by the time they do understand, it's too late to fix it. This video is not for everyone. It's not for the ones still trying to impress their friends. It's not for the ones hiding behind excuses. It's not for the ones who want to be motivated for a few minutes and go right back to scrolling. No, this is for the few. The few who feel the urgency deep in their chest. The few who know they were meant for more and are tired of waiting. The few who are willing to face the truth before it becomes a regret. Because here's what most people won't understand. They won't understand how sacrifices today create freedom tomorrow. They won't understand how discomfort now prevents regret later. They won't understand how your time, your energy, your discipline, they're all being traded for something. And that trade is permanent. What are you trading your life for? A few more hours of sleep? Another season of a show that adds nothing to your growth? Another month stuck in a comfort zone disguised as a routine? Most people will keep walking the same path, thinking they're safe, until they realize they've drifted far from the life they were born to live. This video is your moment to wake up, to rise, to understand now, so you don't regret later. So before you scroll away, before you say, "I'll come back to this," ask yourself this: if not now, when? Because the difference between greatness and regret isn't talent, it's timing. And most people run out of time before they realize how much they had. But not you. Not if you stay locked in. Let's begin. The world owes you nothing, but you owe yourself everything. Let's get one thing straight. The world doesn't owe you anything. Not recognition, not success, not a break, not even fairness. And yet, most people walk through life waiting. Waiting to be discovered, waiting to be picked, waiting for someone to hand them an opportunity. They think if they work hard enough, or if they're a good person, somehow life will reward them. But that's not how life works. Life doesn't pay you for who you are. It pays you for what you do. It rewards the one who shows up relentlessly, not the one waiting for a sign. And this is where most people get it wrong. They expect the world to give them a stage without building the foundation. They want applause without doing the work. They want success without the struggle. You've got to understand something powerful. You owe it to yourself to rise. No one is coming to validate your potential. No one is going to knock on your door and say, "Hey, I see what you're capable of. Here's the perfect opportunity." That's a fantasy. That's a trap. And too many people waste their entire lives hoping that day will come. But it won't. Unless you make it happen. And you can. You're more powerful than you've ever allowed yourself to believe. But power unused is potential wasted. You owe yourself more than just survival. You owe yourself a life that reflects your strength, your ambition, and your purpose. So stop waiting to be chosen. Choose yourself. Start the project. Launch the business. Get in shape. Learn the skill. Walk away from the things that drain you. Move toward the things that call you. You don't need permission. You need to act. Because the longer you wait, the heavier the regret. There are people out there with half your talent, half your intelligence, living the life you dream of. Not because they're better, but because they move. They didn't wait. They decided to be the one who builds rather than begs. You've been given this one life, one shot, one window of time. Don't waste it asking the world to notice you. Become someone so consistent, so undeniable, so disciplined, that eventually the world has no choice but to notice. And if they don't, it doesn't matter. Because you didn't do it for them. You did it for you. You did it because you knew you were meant for more, because you got tired of settling, because you decided your dreams were worth more than your excuses. So stop blaming life, stop blaming others. This is your time, your fight, your climb. The world owes you nothing, but you owe yourself everything. Discipline hurts now, regret hurts forever. Let's talk about pain. Not the kind that hits you out of nowhere, but the kind you choose. The kind you either face now in the form of discipline or later in the form of regret. That's it. There's no third option. There's no way to coast through life without paying a price. The only choice is what you're willing to pay for. Discipline is hard. Let's not sugarcoat it. It means waking up when your body wants to sleep. It means saying no when it's easier to say yes. It means choosing what's right over what's easy. It means showing up again and again, even when the results aren't showing yet. It hurts. It's lonely. It's uncomfortable. But here's the truth. That pain is temporary. It molds you, strengthens you, sharpens your mind, and hardens your spirit. Now compare that to regret. Regret doesn't just hurt. It haunts. It follows you around like a shadow. It sneaks up on you when you're lying in bed at night. It whispers, "What if?" It reminds you of all the times you said tomorrow, and tomorrow never came. It eats away at you slowly, year after year, until you become a shell of the person you could have been. That pain lasts forever. Most people don't get this until they're older, until they realize they traded temporary comfort for permanent dissatisfaction, until they look back at a life of average and ask themselves, why didn't I go harder? Why didn't I take the chance? Don't wait for that moment. Choose the pain that leads to growth, not the pain that comes from running. Every time you pick up your discipline, your workout, your routine, your grind, you're investing in a life with less regret. You're buying your freedom with effort. You're paying the price now so you don't have to later, because success never goes on sale. It's full price every time. And here's the thing. Once you embrace discipline long enough, it becomes strength. It becomes identity. What once felt like suffering now feels like purpose. You stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop asking if it's worth it. And you just go. Because you've seen what regret costs. And you're not willing to pay that price. So the next time you want to quit, the next time your mind says, skip it, it's just one day. The next time you feel the pull to be lazy, to scroll, to delay, remember the pain. And remember which one you're choosing. Because yes, discipline hurts, but regret will break your soul. The people around you might love you, but they won't save you. This might sting a little, but you need to hear it now, not when it's too late. No one is coming to save you, not your parents, not your friends, not your boss, your coach, or your partner. They might love you, they might support you, but they can't fight your battles, they can't carry your weight, and they won't climb your mountain for you. That's on you. Most people live in a dangerous illusion that someone, somewhere is going to step in and change everything. That help will arrive, that life will somehow work out. But let's be clear, hoping isn't the plan. Depending on others to rescue you is the fastest way to stay stuck. Yes, you might have people who care. Yes, you might have a support system. But when it's 4 a.m. and you're questioning everything, when your doubts are screaming louder than your dreams, when your body wants to quit and your mind is begging for comfort, no one's coming. It's just you and the fight, and that's a good thing. Because once you stop waiting for someone else to lift you, you realize just how powerful you are. You realize that everything you've been looking for, the strength, the direction, the drive, it's already inside you. You just haven't been forced to use it yet. The people around you might offer advice. They might listen. They might cheer you on. But they can't make you move. They can't wake up for you. They can't grind for you. That inner fire, only you can light it. Most people won't understand this until it's too late. Until they've spent years blaming others, blaming the system, blaming their family. Until one day they're left face to face with the truth. They never took control of their own life. You don't get to outsource your greatness. You don't get to delegate your destiny. No one else can walk your path because it wasn't meant for them. It was meant for you. So stop expecting someone to pull you out of your excuses. Stop waiting for the perfect mentor, the perfect partner, the perfect opportunity. Be your own rescue. Be your own revolution. And when you do that, when you stop relying on the people who love you to save you, you become stronger, sharper, and more self-aware. You develop grit. You develop discipline. You become the kind of person that doesn't need to be saved because you saved yourself. And in doing so, you inspire the very people who once tried to help you. So hear this loud and clear. You are your own responsibility. Own that truth and rise from it. The pain you avoid becomes the prison you live in. Pain is a part of life, that much is certain. But here's what most people never learn. The pain you avoid today becomes the prison you live in tomorrow. Let that sink in. Every time you run from discomfort, you're reinforcing the walls around your potential. You're choosing the illusion of safety over the reality of progress. You're locking yourself in a cage built by fear, excuses, and denial. Most people live in avoidance. They avoid failure, so they never try. They avoid rejection, so they never speak up. They avoid hard work, so they settle for mediocrity. And while they think they're protecting themselves, what they're really doing is burying their future. The truth is, every dream comes with pain. Growth hurts. Transformation demands sacrifice. There's no shortcut, no cheat code, no bypass. You've got to be willing to go through it, to bleed, to sweat, to break and rebuild. But most people, they numb, they distract, they scroll, they pretend it's fine. They escape into temporary comfort. Food, entertainment, gossip, validation, anything to avoid facing what they know deep down. They're capable of more, but they're afraid to face it. Here's the catch. That pain you're running from doesn't disappear. It waits. It waits until you're alone, until you're quiet, until you're older, looking back at a life half-lived, wondering what might have been if you had just faced the fire. Avoiding the hard conversations, that pain becomes distance and disconnection. Avoiding the gym, that pain becomes illness. Avoiding your goals, that pain becomes regret. Pain doesn't vanish. It transforms into the exact thing you swore you'd never become. But the good news, you get to choose your pain. The pain of waking up early, or the pain of watching others pass you by. The pain of pushing through fear, or the pain of knowing you played it safe. The pain of discipline, or the pain of regret. Only one of those pains leads to freedom. So face it, walk toward it, feel it fully, and move anyway. Because every time you confront your fear, it loses its power. Every time you walk through discomfort, you expand. You grow, you level up, you shatter the limits you once thought were permanent. Most people never get there, not because they're not talented, but because they're not willing to be uncomfortable. But you're different. You're not here to avoid pain, you're here to use it. Let pain be your teacher, not your jailer. Let discomfort sharpen you, not paralyze you, because at the end of your life, you won't remember the times you played it safe. You'll remember the moments you chose to rise, even when it hurt, especially when it hurt. Your potential means nothing without action. Let's talk about one of the most overused and most dangerous words in personal development: potential. Everyone says it. You've got potential. You're so talented. You could do something great. But here's the truth that most people refuse to face. Potential means absolutely nothing without action. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how gifted, how skilled, how visionary you may be. If you're not executing, if you're not moving, if you're not acting on that potential, it's worthless. The world is filled with people who could have been something. People who had a spark, had ambition, had dreams, but never did the work, never followed through, never made the leap. And now they're haunted by the very potential that once inspired them. Your potential is not a guarantee, it's a responsibility. It's a message from the future version of you, the one screaming, "Don't waste this." Because here's the thing, there are people out there right now with half your ability living the life you want. Why? Because they showed up, they moved, they acted. They didn't wait for perfect timing. They didn't wait until they had every skill, every connection, every answer. They started and figured it out along the way. Meanwhile, most people stay stuck in the trap of almost. Almost ready, almost started, almost consistent, almost committed. But almost doesn't build anything. Almost doesn't create legacy. Almost robs you of everything. If you feel that fire inside, that inner voice saying, "I'm made for more," don't let it become background noise. Don't let it fade into frustration. Use it, channel it, and move. Because potential unexpressed becomes pressure. You start to feel angry at yourself. You start resenting your own life. Not because it's bad, but because you know it could have been great. You were born with a purpose, a calling, a mission that only you can fulfill. But none of it manifests without effort. None of it becomes real until you move. So don't worship your potential. Honor it by showing up, by doing the hard things, by making the call, taking the risk, writing the words, doing the reps, showing up day after day, even when it's not exciting. That's how dreams become reality. That's how potential becomes proof. At the end of your life, you won't be judged by how much talent you had. You'll be judged by what you did with it. So the question is simple. Will you let your potential rot in silence, or will you wake it up with action? Because time's moving, the world's watching, and your future is waiting, not for your thoughts, not for your dreams, but for your action. If you don't define your life, life will define you. There's a harsh truth that most people only realize when it's far too late. If you don't define your life, life will define it for you. If you don't choose who you are, the world will choose for you. If you don't decide what you want, the world will hand you a script and expect you to follow it. And that script, it's built for average. It's built for survival, not success, comfort, not greatness. Most people live lives that were never theirs to begin with. They go to jobs they hate, surrounded by people who drain them, following routines they didn't choose, all because they never stopped to ask, What do I actually want? They were too busy conforming, too scared to question, too distracted to design. But let this sink in. If you don't intentionally shape your identity, your habits, your goals, then your life becomes a product of environment, not of purpose. And that is the recipe for quiet desperation. You see it everywhere. People who smile on the outside but are suffocating on the inside. People who play roles that were assigned to them. The obedient employee, the silent dreamer, the realistic adult. And yet, deep down, there's a war raging within. A voice saying, "This isn't who I was meant to be." But they ignore it. They silence it. They numb it with distractions. And eventually, it fades. Don't let that be you. You were not born to follow a script. You were born to write one. You were not made to blend in. You were made to stand out. So define yourself. Define your standards. Define what success means to you. Define how you treat your body, your mind, your time, your energy. Define the kind of person you want to be when no one is watching. Because if you don't, life will. And life doesn't care about your dreams. It only gives you what you're willing to demand, fight for, and protect. This eye in your life with clarity, because when you're clear, you're dangerous. You don't get pulled by distractions. You don't live for approval. You don't drift, you drive. Start with who you want to be, not what the world tells you to be. Start with what matters to you, not what impresses others. Because here's the bottom line. You're the author, you're the builder, you're the architect. And the moment you stop letting others define you, your life starts to feel like yours again. So ask yourself now, are you living by design or are you just following instructions? If the answer shakes you, good, that's the beginning of freedom. One day it will be too late. Make sure you don't wake up then. There will come a moment, and it may not be dramatic, it may not be loud, but it will hit you like a silent thunder, a moment when you realize that the time to change is gone, that the time to build, to chase, to fight has passed, that your window wasn't endless, that your life wasn't a rehearsal, and in that moment you will not be thinking about the people who doubted you. You won't be thinking about your followers, your status, or your money. You'll be thinking about one thing only. Did I become who I was meant to be? That question will either break you or set your soul on fire. Most people never get there until it's too late. They spend decades chasing validation, living small, delaying their greatness, choosing comfort, postponing change. And then they look in the mirror at 40, 50, 60 and all they see is potential that expired. But the saddest part? It didn't have to be that way. They could have spoken up, they could have started, they could have tried, but they waited. And waiting is how dreams die. So let this be your moment. Not one day, not next week, right now. Let this be the day you stop carrying around excuses like armor. Let this be the day you stop bargaining with fear. Let this be the day you stop calling procrastination planning. Because there is no guarantee that tomorrow will bring more clarity. There is no promise that next year will be easier. The only thing that's certain is the clock, and it's ticking, whether you move or not. That's the brutal truth. Time does not care about your excuses. It does not care how busy you are. It does not pause while you overthink. One day your life will flash before your eyes, and the question is, will it be worth watching, or will you be filled with silent screams? All the almosts, the what ifs, the I wish, I had, because regret doesn't shout, it whispers. Every morning you wake up and feel the weight of a dream untouched. Every time you see someone else living your vision because they took action and you didn't. But you don't have to end that way. You still have time, you still have strength, you still have the choice, right now. Don't wait for the wake-up call that comes too late. Be your own wake-up call. Live so fully, so fiercely, so purposefully, that when your final day comes, you look back and smile. Because you didn't just exist, you lived, you built, you became. And the world knew you were here, not because you shouted, but because your life whispered something powerful. I used my time well. So, now you know. You know what most people will never allow themselves to face, that life isn't waiting, that your time here is not a test run, that each hour wasted in hesitation, each day spent avoiding your calling, is a permanent sacrifice. You can't rewind, you can't redo. You only get one chance to live this life wide awake, and most people sleep through it. They chase what's easy, they live for what's now, they trade greatness for comfort, and then, years later, they look back with tears in their eyes, whispering the most painful phrase anyone can ever say, I wish I had. Don't let that be you. Don't become the person who looks back on their life and realizes they were the reason they didn't rise, that they had the time, the talent, the fire, but they chose not to use it. Not because they didn't want it, but because they didn't understand how short the window really was. You've heard the truth now. You've seen the cost of procrastination. You've felt the warning signs in your gut, that sense that you were meant for more, that you're running out of days to keep making excuses, that no one is coming to do this for you. So what will you do? Will you walk away and pretend this message wasn't for you, or will this be your line in the sand? The moment everything changed, the moment you stopped waiting, the moment you stopped hiding, the moment you started building. Because the reality is, you have a choice right now that most people never recognize. You can either act on what you've heard, or join the millions who will never understand this message until they've lost everything it could have saved. Choose action, choose discipline, choose direction, choose growth, even when it hurts. Choose to face the hard truths now, because doing so protects you from a lifetime of regret later. Don't be remembered as someone who could have been great. Be remembered as someone who became great because they understood in time, because they moved when others stood still, because they chose to wake up. And when the world tries to pull you back into silence, into comfort, into mediocrity, let them sleep, but not you, because you know better now. So rise, build, move, become. Let this not be the video you watched. Let it be the video that broke you free. And when the time comes to look back on your life, you won't say, "I wish I had." You'll say, "I'm glad I did."